was like, why don't you have Charlie and I on together?
Why don't you just have me follow the Rolling Stones while you're at it too?
All right. Union of the Unwanted. We are back. Ricky, take it away.
Of course, I was muted. Hey, what's up, everybody? Another episode of the Union of the Unwanted. If you're new to this, these things have actually picked up a lot of steam. People are really enjoying these. If you're new to this, basically, we're taking a lot of people from alternative media, bringing interesting people, hoping to spark interesting conversations. And I think it's the name of it is perfect because a lot of us are censored, shadow banned. So we're the unwanted in mainstream media. So alternative media is coming together to help spark some of these conversations that are being censored. And one thing we were just talking about before this, before we went on live, was how I'm sure a lot of people have heard the Brian Callen accusations. He just did a little fan video or whatnot, just letting his fans know that he's going to kind of take a hiatus from his podcast until things get worked out or whatnot. But he's been accused of some same stuff as Chris D'Elia, who was also accused of some stuff, and it seems like there's a recurring theme with people who are linked to Rogan. And I think Rogan, and I think Alex Jones talked about this on his show, and some other people I think that we know have talked about it, where it seems like because he wasn't willing to have the Joe Bidens and some of the more mainstream people on, mostly because Joe Rogan likes to have people on that he finds interesting. And I don't think having a conversation with Joe Biden would be very interesting. But I think it's one of those things where it seems like, and a friend of ours who hopefully might be joining us tonight has a theory that they think they're purposely trying to take out or discredit people linked to Rogan. It's not out of the realm of possibility because of the fact that obviously the election is a big deal and they'll go to any measures to win it. You're seeing now with the COVID conversation, because they won't, personally, I don't think they want people going to polls. I think if you want to have some fuckery with the ballots, what better way than having a mail-in, votes, which, I mean, could you make it any easier to kind of mess things up or screw around with that? So, any of you guys have any opinions on any of this?
Well, I think that I lived in LA for 20 years. If you're trying to compile a list of things that famous guys have done, it's easy, that have done wrong. It's easy to build a list. I mean, has Brian Callen been an angel? Probably. I don't know him. Probably not, though. You've got guys that become famous and make a bunch of money and they're recognized in the streets and they're treated, fans are swarming them. It becomes a very unnatural scenario. So I'm not trying to defend him one way or the other. I don't know if he's involved in that, but if they want to pick you off, if they want to start going after Rogan's guys, they tried to do it with Joey Diaz too. But some of these guys, they're comedians, so they're going to say things that are outrageous because that's part of their job. And where that line is it's a gray area, and you can be funny and you can be pervy, and that line can get kind of blurry. So I'm not trying to defend these guys because I don't know their situations. I think that the Chris D'Elia situation, there's like evidence on Twitter of him like back and forth some screenshots. I don't know. So it puts a big target on these guys, and then it invites everybody to come in who's had any sort of interaction with them in a negative way to pile on and say, yeah, this guy was a jerk to me. Well, it's not illegal to be a jerk, and I'm sure there's a lot of that going along too. So I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if it was part of an orchestrated effort to pick off his friends, but it's also possible that it's just some guys behaving poorly, and it all kind of gets brought to the forefront now when we're in this cancel culture type of environment, which is I think kind of a gross environment.
Well, we have two females. Let's get two female. Oh, we have three females because we have the Truthzilla team over here too. I think they're still trying to work things out, some technical difficulties. But this whole cancel, the whole, like Brian Callen said it, he's guilty until proven innocent. And I think you see this all the time. It's a double standard where if it's a Republican who gets accused of something, then immediately they're guilty. If it's a Democrat, then it's like, well, let's, because you saw with Joe Biden, right? He got accused of stuff and everybody's like, well, let's just brush that aside. From a female's perspective, I mean, what's your, your opinion on all this? Do you feel like it's kind of unfair for some males to kind of be, I mean, the second you're accused, unfortunately, it's like you might as well be guilty because your reputation gets ruined a little bit.
Unfair. I spent 14 years in Hollywood. I worked on Chelsea Lately. I worked for 1 million people. There are nothing worse than the predators that are women in Hollywood. This is totally upside down. The whole Me Too movement when it comes to Hollywood it's false. It's just false. I know as many disgusting women who have slept their way to the top and destroyed men along the way. This is a total farce. It was created with that Christine Blasey Ford bullshit where believe all women. I know a lot of women who literally are vicious. They are predators. They are the meanest people to work for. They're jealous and undercutting. And, I said a lot of times when I was with Chelsea, I used to always say what? I don't understand. How could she hate Donald Trump when she behaves 10 times worse? And, now we're dealing with all this bullshit. And look, Brian Callen deserves to, all these guys. Listen, being a female comic is just as hardcore as being a male comic. This whole comic thing is such bullshit. I knew Louis C.K. when I was 18 years old. I'm way older than that now. And let me tell you something. He's not a predator. He's just crazy. I mean, seriously. But you know what? You know how many of those girls laughed and acted like it wasn't a big deal and walked out? He's testing people. But you know what? The women in Hollywood are not victims. This is bullshit. It is total bullshit. The real victims you don't know of because they died of drug overdoses and suicide and all these other things. These celebrity women that go up there and say Me Too are liars, okay? They are liars because most of them, like Alyssa Milano, her husband is a CIA agent that represents Joe Biden. So, I mean, full disclosure, who is she really? And I'm just so sick of it because look, from Sherry Lansing to Kathleen Kennedy to Chelsea to, all of them. You think they got there because they're nice girls? No, absolutely not. And there was a time when I was coming up in the 90s, my first job was at MTV House of Style. And I'll tell you right now, my boss told me right away, it's a tough game and you better play it. And playing it meant playing men. They're not innocent. These women aren't innocent. And it's just a total fallacy that women are victims in Hollywood. If they made it the same way the men did. And that's my take.
Well, Mel, real quick, then who in Hollywood makes it on their talent?
I think that there's a cap. I think there's a level where you can only get this far. Like somebody like me, you're doing. And for some reason, you just can't get to that next level. You just can't, and if you're not with the right agent, you sure as hell can't. And there's backroom deals and ugly stuff going on. But I will tell you, there is not a woman in Hollywood that made it that is innocent. Okay? There's no innocent at the top. There's just not. Either it was a family thing or, look, there are a few. There's always going to be a few.
Tom Cruise.
But I'm just saying, yeah, right. I'm just saying that there is a cap. Look, I went to Beverly Hills Playhouse. I didn't know in the beginning that it was the hub of Scientology, but it is. And they had a reason to promote you. You were promoted if you followed the rules right. One time my teacher at Beverly Hills Playhouse said to me, "You've had too much therapy." And I'm thinking, well, that's a good thing, I think. And he's like, "Oh, no, you're just not malleable enough." And then that's the truth. And I'm just so sick. I see these women that I know are not innocent. Look, let me tell you something. A man can be destroyed as easily as a woman. There's many women who've destroyed men, used them, pretended to be in love, used them, and dumped them the minute they became famous. I worked for a couple. So, I'm just, what's happening to Brian Callen. Listen, I know that woman. I know her husband. Whatever. Even Jason's here. I know about a couple of them. And the truth is that no there is a cap in Hollywood. And if you're not going to play the game, you're not getting there, because the truth is they need you to go out there onto the late night talk shows and promote the message. The message is more important than you. And, it's very sad because women aren't victims. It's a total lie. Anyway, Whitney, maybe you have something to say.
Well, like the whole accusations that we're talking about, right? I haven't really followed, so I don't really know how much I want to chime in. And the other the people like surrounding Rogan that have been like, that you were talking about, Ricky. I haven't followed those either,
Yeah.
so I feel.
But it doesn't. But from your
No.
like, obviously you've gone deep in your research. I mean, it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility that they would go to those lengths, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but also like keep in mind too, like Rogan isn't exactly like 100% truth teller. He had Epstein's chef on, didn't ask him about Epstein once, and like talked about steak the whole time.
Good point.
Good point. So, I mean, maybe they want to, pressure him a little bit. I'm sure they're mad that he left YouTube or whatever.
Just Spotify. Yeah. We've talked about that. Well, I think we've talked about it a few times where I think some of us think, and Sam's much closer to him than any of us. He has the hunch that he's basically, it's a F you to YouTube, and he's gonna kind of, I guess, stay within the guidelines while he's there, and then once he goes to Spotify, he'll have a little bit more freedom. I mean, that's kind of what we think is going to happen. I mean, we'll see if his first episode on Spotify he has Alex Jones on. But it's hard to know. I mean, there's so many I've heard like Alex Jones, I've heard Rogan talk about, and other people close to Rogan talk about some of the creepy stuff that happened to Rogan when some of the DNC people were trying to contact him about having people on, and he was talking about like just the amount of people in politics that when he first started having politics on that were contacting him like, hey, you should have this person on, and like all the pressure he was getting to have these people on.
Yeah, I can only imagine the invitations he got to a million charity events. Like, come speak for us. Da, da, da. Yeah. Listen, I think Rogan's just trying to stay middle of the road. I mean, who can blame him? He does. Listen, he goes all over the place, but to try to like peg him, he's been doing this since he's a kid. You want to talk about somebody who earned it? Rogan earned it. I saw him doing stand-up at 18, 19, 20. I was there too. It's Comedy Cellar. Look, this guy earned it. He got acting gigs. He got everything. There's people who earn it. I just, as far as the women that come out with these Me Too things, they're not them. They're so I don't know.
I've heard Callan talk about him and Shab talked about it a while ago about how when Rogan said Amy Schumer was stealing jokes and how it kind of hurt her career, and she's a big part of like that Me Too movement and whatnot. So who knows? I mean, there's this stuff. I mean, what we see. I mean, who knows what's going on behind the scenes? It's
Ricky, let me just jump in. I mean, Amy Schumer is the niece of Chuck Schumer. Just to throw that right out there, too. So talk about politically connected. I mean, it doesn't get much more politically connected than that. I just want to
spreading the message.
She is one of the biggest hypocrites. She was basically brought in to a little bit of the comedy scene. I used to listen to her on Opie and Anthony with Jim Norton. And talk about a crass show. She would join right in. So what the hell happened?
The whole story was about giving blowjobs and being a cum dumpster. I mean, come on. This is not real. I hung out for decades with Sarah Silverman backstage. I was periphery. But what I'm saying is nobody's innocent in the comedy scene, and that they're destroying men when I know women being like, I'm going to try to have sex tonight. Maybe he'll put me on stage tomorrow is not a joke. And it didn't happen once or twice. And to think that men aren't able to be destroyed is insane, especially in Hollywood. When I first moved out there in 99, I used to tell my friends, just show up at Sky Bar with a suit on and tell any woman you're producing a movie, you'll probably get lucky. And I mean, I just, this whole like women are innocent thing, just like we're learning. People are baffled by the Ghislaine Maxwells of the world and the Ellens of the world and the Oprahs of the world. We were told, especially during the Kavanaugh, believe all women. Well, I don't, because I know better. Why are women even more like, we're all human, and women have the capacity to be sociopaths and psychopaths too, and sex demons. And it's just the whole fallacy about look, I feel bad for these guys because innocent until proven guilty was destroyed during Kavanaugh, and they're all paying for it.
Well, speaking about women not being innocent, Whitney, I don't know if you know anything about this woman called Maxwell. I'm kidding. Obviously, a lot of people, their opinions changing quite a bit. Where like Jeffrey Epstein was like the face of that whole story and was like the evilest person and a part of that, and now people are starting to realize like, oh, maybe Maxwell was the one people.
Well, yeah, Ghislaine was definitely higher than Epstein, in my opinion. But I mean, what's really important to point out too is that the person, at least in the U.S. anyway, that was like above both of them was Leslie Wexner, right? And that's how you know that like Me Too, the establishment Me Too, is a total farce because like why were they like, let's boycott Victoria's Secret or do something like that or go after Wexner or something? I mean,
you're 100% right, because don't you remember when, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but remember when we were kids and like it was like 9th grade, 10th grade for me, and they started having like the very explicit Victoria's Secret commercials, and I was like, whoa, I don't want to see that with my dad in the room.
Don't forget the Abercrombie and Fitch too, because that was
preteens.
real like towards like teenage teenage boys and everything. It was always a little homoerotic if you walked in Abercrombie and Fitch.
Right, always. But like Whitney's saying, and she brought up most of it about Les Wexner that I've read also from her. But I'm telling you right now that Victoria's Secret and Abercrombie and Fitch and all that was planned. It was planned. First, it was like the adult catalog. Then they had this pink catalog. And, 9 times out of 10, you go into some guy's apartment when you're single and you go to the bathroom and I'm finding like, why is he getting Victoria's Secret and pink catalogs? It was like the easy way. So, I think Les Wexner is a big part. I also think that we allowed it. We allowed it. I just think everyone felt helpless and kind of blind, but the Victoria's Secret fashion shows were nothing less than, I don't know. I just like as close to like soft porn as you can do. And children are watching it. It was hyped up, it was just crazy. But anyway, no, back to Whitney. But Whitney's right about Les Wexner, but nobody seems to get it. Nobody seems to get that they were conditioning us for a long time. And now we have porn star library hour. So, right?
Is there anything to those tags on the bras and stuff that are they really being tracked or anything like that?
I don't know.
I've never heard that.
You guys haven't heard of the little RFID inside that little
does that have something to do with human trafficking?
Yeah.
Is that some genius thing?
I haven't heard that though. Apparently the New York, like the flagship store in New York, Victoria's Secret in the 90s, they had the dressing rooms bugged and Epstein could peek in and watch women, take their clothes off. Yep. Yeah. Well, Maria Farmer knew that because Epstein described like moles and like different marks on her body when she went into that store to try on a bra. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they definitely do creepy stuff, right? And also Epstein would like at his island and stuff would like have Victoria's Secret products and be like, look, you can wear these and all this stuff, So, I mean, definitely.
It was an audition. I thought that they went down there to audition.
Well, I mean, some of the girls thought that, right? And a lot of the recruitment.
It was upselling.
Yeah, it's upselling.
Victoria's Secret.
Right. Well, you know what though? But people play. My main issue is that the women aren't innocent. I feel like the whole Kavanaugh thing with that MK Ultra girl, whatever her name is, I can't even remember. I don't even want to. But the whole like, I believe all women. Everyone. I mean, that was a setup for what was to come. And
well, I mean, they don't believe all women though. I mean, they said that at first, but it's only when believing all women is convenient when it's the woman they want you to believe.
Listen,
so it was never about believe all women. It was just believe all women in that period of time when the only woman and the focus of media was the particular woman they wanted people to believe. Then Tara Reid comes out and they're like, no, actually, we don't believe all women anymore because Biden, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's always been, I mean, that's that whole sentiment behind that movement. I mean, yeah, like obviously there's a lot of like predatory, like Harvey Weinstein obviously is like a serial predator, right? But I mean, it was trying to subvert any sort of movement of targeting, I think, predators like that, whether male or female, and leading to anything sort of constructive. They had to make some sort of establishment movement to sort of co-opt that, those feelings, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Jason, you're going to say something?
I was just going to point to Tara Reid as well. I mean, literally, you had one side of the false political spectrum sitting there talking about grabbing him by the pussy from him joking about that off camera on some shitty talk show, and Joe Biden, who's no angel for a million other reasons, actually grabs him by the pussy. There's actually some evidence and some legs there. You could go back to that Larry King clip where her mother clearly does call in and mention it. And you can also look at the fact that she was not looking for fame or demanding justice, saying, look, this did happen to me. I was a staffer. I shut my mouth about it, etc. But the media didn't touch it. Forget about believing her. It was barely in the news cycle a week and a half. I mean, if that doesn't explain to people how manufactured the outrage that you see on television and social media is now. I was swiping on Tinder early in the week, and the opening thing was how they support BLM. I'm serious. Like, I've got a full BLM Black Lives Matter ad on my shitty dating app that barely works anyway. Like, what is going on? This 2020 is the fucking worst, man. And today, I spent the majority of the day out with about 200 people who were protesting what's going on in New York. This woman lost her mother. I had another person whose father was murdered in these homes telling their stories. Aaron, the whistleblower from Elmhurst, was here. You want to know how much national media covered it? Why don't you go take a look? There's not one story about this that 200 plus people are protesting mandatory vaccines, the shutdown of our economy, Lord Cuomo giving our state over to billionaires, and you will not see this anywhere in the mainstream. There's no riots. Okay, it doesn't have the glam and the flash of fires everywhere. It is, people of every sex, color, race, creed, religion getting together and saying we're being oppressed. So you won't see it on the mainstream media. Dude, 2020 has been so frustrating on so many levels. We're maximizing stories that don't matter surrounding one of the biggest stories out there, AKA Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, right? There's so
child trafficking. Nobody's talking about it. And what they're picking and choosing who to put in the forefront. I mean, there's people like Jeremy Piven and Brett Ratner and Jeff Ross and all these other people that are coming out, and that story comes and goes immediately. Suddenly, this one guy or this other guy, Callan, or the other guy, or Chris, or whoever, and it's like they're picking and choosing who to destroy. And that's interesting to me too, because who's choosing who to destroy? Because because like the Tara Reid thing, they destroy her, but they promote a woman that can't even prove that she met Brett Kavanaugh ever, and it's just, I don't know who's choosing. I'm so sick of like the fact that there clearly is as Whitney and a bunch of people here have all talked about, is there's clearly a group of people that are running everything, that are deciding who matters and who doesn't, and who gets a voice and who doesn't. And at this point, I'm not sure who it is, but I feel like we're the only hope. But nobody's telling the truth. I was doing a whole thing today trying to figure out what watch the water means, because there's so many scenarios of watch the water. It could be the cargo, it could be the water, it could be this, that, the China. But I'm just thinking, like, nobody's paying attention to that. Nobody's paying attention to the real stories. And I'm just curious who's really dictating all of this now. Who's running it? Like, it can't be Soros. It's just not. I'm just not sure who really is in control here. Does anybody think they know?
Dean, what are you seeing in Portland? What are you seeing on the streets there?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What I'm seeing is a kind of a play shift from now that the feds have left downtown. I mean, they're still inside the building. They're not allowed to come out anymore. There's sort of a temporal agreement between the city council and the mayor and the governor to get the feds out. So the narrative has shifted a little bit, and there was just an attack on the police station about a mile from my house, and a huge crowd pushed down the street, and they were smashing cars and slashing tires. And so it's just kind of shifting away from that, but the fervor hasn't let down. It's just the targets have changed.
Well, Truthzilla, you guys are in Oregon too, right?
Yeah, we're just down the road, down here in Eugene. So we've been seeing, not obviously not as intense as it is up in Portland, but we've been watching what Governor Kate Brown has been doing, and just so frustrating. Like the mayor of Portland was in the protests. Yeah. It's just so incredibly frustrating. I don't even understand how that works. Like these small businesses are getting destroyed, and they're looking to their government officials to remedy the situation, and the government officials are out in the streets with the protesters. It just makes absolutely no sense. And so, like I said, it's been happening a little bit down here in Eugene, but not to the level that Portland's seen. And I don't think that there's been any federal troops down here or federal.
I think it's a pretty great example of how completely perverted, at least Oregon or Portland specifically, is government and local government has become, and completely indoctrinated by the Marxism and the sort of mind control that's going on, that our own mayor and our city council people, our commissioners, are actually in the same protests of the people that want their heads on a stick. These are people that supposedly have the ability to make and change laws and protocols and get things done, but they themselves have been mind controlled, and it's really perverse. I've never seen anything like it in my life, and it's really terrifying, because we're having in Portland right now, we're having a special election for a city commissioner position number 2, and the choices are one very hard left progressive Democrat and another hard left progressive Democrat, and there's absolutely no choice there whatsoever, except for one is a African American woman and one is a white old man. So you can pretty much imagine where that's going to go.
Right. Well, I'm in New York City, and I'll tell you, I saw a guy. What's happening here? We have no cops. Okay. There are no cops. The cops are completely ridiculous. And I have a good friend who has a restaurant. So we're out on Saturday night, a big Black Lives Matter troop comes down the street. Everyone's yelling. They clearly have their own security. Okay. They have their own security. I don't know if it's the brown shirts that de Blasio recruited or what, but they do. And then
I've seen that here in Portland too.
It's unbelievable. And they pick up, and this homeless guy picks up I guess a steel pipe, and he's walking around. There are 5 cop cars and 10 cops watching. And the owner of the restaurant says, "Can't you do anything?" He said, "We're not allowed. I have to call and get permission." There was an executive order, and they have to call the station and get permission to approach. And I go, if that was a woman being raped right there, would you have to call? And he said, yeah. And he goes, "This is New York, 2020. And I go, "And you're a cop?" And he's like, "Believe me." He's like, "It's way worse to watch." And I was like, this can't be. They actually have to call and get permission to go up to somebody now. These cops, it's 10, and he's running around the street. Oh, and he stole it was a man wearing a dress, by the way, and he stole a fire extinguisher. I mean, the guy was mentally ill. I mean, it was so extreme. And I said, "Well, why can't you take him to the hospital?" He's like, "No, we can't do that. There's nothing they can do for them." And I'm like, I mean, this isn't the first time. My friend's restaurant gets attacked every day. They're letting us eat outside and to our own peril because everyone's empowered. They know there's no cops. The cops can't do anything. And I'm pretty sure that people are taking pictures. They're working for the government. They're working for de Blasio. We had 4,000 contact tracers. And guess what? They don't wear uniforms. They dress normal. And they stand next to you and they ask you questions. And you might think that you're like hanging out. And the minute you say like, "Yeah, I had COVID 6 months ago," and they're like, "Oh, let's get together, taking your address and your name, and somebody's going to show up." It's not a joke. What's going on in New York City is unbelievable. And the cops have nothing. They have no power, none. They can't arrest anyone. It's crazy. It's very dangerous.
I want people to think about that. They don't want law enforcement to do their job. They're already going to defund it. They just defunded sanitation in New York City, $100 million. There's trash everywhere. Okay. And they have a snitch force that they're putting $30 million more into right now, again, headed by Michael Bloomberg, an unelected fucking billionaire.
Right.
This is why I'm moving out of this state immediately. Like I was thinking less than like 30 days. I don't know if I'm even lasting this month at this point.
Is it because of that, or because you had no luck on Tinder?
I do. You're not kidding. But I have metal signs, guys. Metal signs in my small little town that say, "Please wear a mask." They're not even paper anymore. They want me to wear a mask at the ATM.
This shit ain't going away. It's not going away. Jason, where do you think you're going to go?
I already traveled the country. Iowa seems pretty good. Iowa seems pretty good. South
Mexico's borders are still open.
They were pretty damn open. Like, all right, so let me give you a taste of why I'm thinking Iowa. I'm hoping my sister and her kids are going to come. And I really like Missouri too, but they were talking about in some counties having middle school students, and the one just turned 12, wear masks in school. My kids aren't going to grow up to be slaves. I won't fucking allow it. I will not have that happen. And at least Iowa is saying no masks for kids. And there are neighborhoods there. I can do my thing until they censor me completely with any internet connection in the world. And even then, I'm pretty ingenuitous. I'll get another job. I don't care. I'll work. I've done a million things in my life. Someone will give me a job. The economy was open there. Okay. I saw less slaves there than most other places. The Midwest had a lot of people pushing back. I really like Missouri too. People that are not ready to push back now are not ready for what's coming, which is an automation nation, UBI, entitled society, where fucking robots show up and deliver your slave boxes.
Right. That's what I think. Right. Jason, I was talking with my sister today, who's a lawyer here, and we were talking about how nobody's going to need the commercial space. What's going to happen to all the commercial space in New York now that everyone figured out nobody has to go to the office? And then everyone's moving out. And it's like, all I keep thinking about is like this Fifi Lee and these smart cities, and how Cuomo said 6 months ago that he's going to have Bill Gates come in and reimagine New York City. Right. Eric Schmidt, exactly, who like hooked up with her at Google China. But no, here's the thing. It's like, are they going to try to make everyone move out of the cities except for workers? It's just going to be workers.
This is it. This is the consolidation of power where they trash the infrastructure completely. Any of those mom and pop shops that have survived all these years and those great restaurants, sorry, that's just not in the future. Anybody who works for SALT that wants a future for their kids has already up and left, and you've seen it. They know it. Right. Okay. Right. What people don't understand is Cuomo, and this is a story that, again, is getting no traction in the United States, but let's take a look at it really, really quick. I think I have it over here, other than the trash story. Oh, no, I nixed that one out. But he's taking billionaire money right now. Right now. In New York City, they have more billionaires per capita than anywhere else in the world. And he's taking money from 43 out of the 118 in New York State. This is a Guardian story. You know, they asked, why don't you just tax the billionaires? Oh, then the billionaires are going to leave. No. Eric Schmidt is going to scoop up the infrastructure. These are the building of the smart cities.
Exactly. The smart cities are there. They're just concentration camps, basically. And, you know, another thing that's happening is there's a whole bunch of lawsuits that are going to start to pop up, which are, look, I have 3 hardware stores in 6 blocks of me. I live on 56 and First. We've all closed, but Home Depot was allowed to be open. Well, all of them are talking about, you know, getting together and suing. Like, why was Home Depot open? And all these stores have to close forever, forever. And it's really, no, listen, Cuomo has made it clear. Not only is he bringing in Schmidt and Gates. I saw the press conference where he said he's going to bring in Schmidt and Gates and reimagine New York City. Well, that's going to be just a bunch of workers. I mean, it's not going to be that different than what's happening in the AI concentration camps in China, except for these
I mean, they had plans. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, yeah, they had plans to do this before March or any of this pandemic stuff happened, right? Also, it's worth pointing out that New York has had plans since like the beginning of the year to start to pilot, not just New York City, but like 5 cities in the entire state as smart cities. And those are all going to be built by Israeli tech companies. None of them are even going to be built by American tech companies. It's also worth pointing out that Eric Schmidt last year is, since 2018, has been head of the National Security Commission on AI. That commission just inspired the new bipartisan AI plan that they're going to push through. And so he's, you know, they're piloting a lot of this stuff out in New York. But, you know, I think the whole, you know, like another thing that's going on right now are the huge evictions, right?
Right.
That are about to go on over the past month. Where are all those people going to go? Well, if you look in on the West Coast, a bunch of Silicon Valley companies have donated to these housing initiatives where they're going to make modular smart houses for everyone to live in that gets evicted, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this is intentional.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Also, apparently the W hotels in New York City are taking in homeless people. I think there's about a $250 a night. And what's that, 7,500 a month? So, at this point, like I don't understand what they're doing, because so many people, there were 4 moving trucks on my block today, and it's not a joke. And it's like they're trying to clean out New York City, but they're holding on, and then they're letting people, they want to close Rikers. So what now? And what's happening in New York City is a travesty. First of all, they're not opening Broadway until 2021. They're not opening museums. The hotels are getting killed. Like, what's the goal?
Well, listen, Bill Gates has told you the goal. It's 2022 lockdown. 2022. Right. Listen, everybody needs to watch that 30-minute full interview where he lays it out for you. Let me explain what's going on here. Lockdown till 2022. Multiple vaccines that do not stop COVID-19 at all and hopefully make the mortality rate go down. These are his own words from tests where in Moderna's case, 80% of those that took the second dose, and he says it's a minimum of 2 doses, maybe more for the elderly, okay? All of them got side effects that included fever and chills, which is basically what you get from the virus.
20% hospitalized.
20% hospitalized, hold on, and 100% who had side effects that took the hot second dose, aka the higher one. You already had an 80% rate, but it was 100 that took the hot dose. Okay. And it doesn't even have to protect you. 7 billion orders in a global.
And they get blanket immunity.
Program.
Right. Oh my God. How can that be? And also, no, the other thing that's really bizarre is that I don't really think that that people don't want to believe that there's evil. Like, I think people don't want to believe that the depopulation agenda of like the UN 2030 and all these agendas are real. They don't want to believe that
communitarianism.
Yeah, like people don't want to believe, like actually, Emmanuel, the third Emmanuel brother, Zeke, who did the Obamacare, actually said that people above 75 years old are a waste of money. So, there is a situation here where it's about depopulation, and depopulation's a myth, because if they just took out the quadrillions of dollars they're sitting on, everyone could eat. But that's not going to happen because, they really.
Well, the crazy thing is the logic in it, too, because Bill Gates has said, he thinks that there should be less people, and he believes in lowering the population, but yet he's pro-vaccinating everybody because he wants people to be healthier, and he justifies it by saying, well, people have more kids if they're unhealthy because they take care of them. So if we vaccinate everybody, then people will have less kids. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, who believes this? Like,
yeah, but 400,000 of the vaccinations in India, why they're not allowed there, I believe, are the women ended up being infertile.
Yeah,
he's a eugenicist. I mean, his father created Planned Parenthood. Nobody seems to realize, like, they're all the same. They really believe that there's just too many people on this planet and that they should pick and choose who survives, who lives, and who doesn't. And if you're not working to benefit their needs, look, it's like everyone here knows, especially Jason and Whitney have done a lot of work on it, is, they don't lie. They, like Bilderberg, all these people, the Good Group, all these these think tanks, They don't lie. They actually say that there are too many people on this planet who are not worth being here. And at this point, it's hard to imagine that these Democratic governors put people in nursing homes on purpose. But it's also hard to imagine it's not true.
Oh, it's worth pointing out that. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say we're pretty lucky. We have a fresh young face like Joe Biden to stand up to these people.
Yes, he can't stand up.
He's a young whippersnapper.
No malarkey tour.
Does anyone want to roll the dice on who Biden's going to pick this week? It's got to be this week, right? They can't roll past like under 90 days. I mean, there's not going to be any debates. Apparently, we're all going to mail in vote, and we're going to have to wait.
I hear it's going to be Britney Spears.
I was going to say Pete Buttigieg. A nice white gay man would be the best call. Just
he already said it's going to be a woman, right?
Throw a curve in there. No. He's not saying anything.
Real quick, I'm gonna try not to be depressing about this, but I think the ultimate goal here is no matter who wins, we're going into an authoritarian state.
Oh, absolutely.
And no matter,
I can talk a lot about that, actually.
Please do.
If I can.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So recently in the news, I don't know if you all saw, there was talk of these new simulations about what's going to happen after November 3rd. They're saying Trump's not going to leave office. Know who's behind that? Michael Chertoff, Bill Kristol, are just two of the fun members there, former Pentagon officials from the Obama administration. I mean, you want to make the QAnon people be the domestic terror threat the FBI said they were last year? You make a group like that to simulate, Trump
war games. I saw that today. That's so crazy.
What's crazy, though, is that this isn't the first simulation they've done. This group has been around. There's actually two groups, and they share membership. And one has private membership, and one has they like release the names, right? But they've been around since way earlier this year. But there's also another company that I've written about called Cyber Reason that has ties to the CIA and Israeli intelligence. And they've been simulating on several occasions since last November for there to be terror attacks, cyber terror attacks on election day, and that the elections will be canceled or no winner will be declared, and then there will be martial law. Right. And so this has been going on. I mean, this is just like before 9/11, you have Pentagon's hitting, the planes and the simulation and like all this other stuff that they were like war gaming, and they claim it's like traditional national security, whatever. And then you have things like Dark Winter before the 2001 anthrax attacks. Right. And here we are with like stuff like Event 201 and Crimson Contagion last year before coronavirus, but also, the November 3rd, 2020 election also being like a key focus of, chaos and probably the next false flag. And they're basically telling us now way more than they were last year, because they've been seeding this narrative since last year, saying stuff like foreign actors are going to meddle in democracy and U.S. democracy will never recover. Right. That was in Rolling Stone last year. Right. And so, but now it's like so in your face. They're basically telling you that Biden's going to win, and then Trump's going to refuse to leave because he's going to say the mail-in ballots were fraud. Right. And then there's going to be an impasse. And then the military, right, activated continuity of government earlier this year because of coronavirus. That even made it into Newsweek. Right. So what do you guys think is going to happen?
Isn't it so aggravating how they just tell you what they're going to do, and then we get this weird Stockholm syndrome over a period of a few weeks, and then everyone acts surprised because they actually are surprised that they did what they said they were going to do?
I mean, that's why I'm trying to talk about it so people don't forget, because like a week from now, people will not remember that I said anything about this at all,
And
the other
about these simulations when I say nice, I mean awful for us, but nice for them, convenient for them, is that it gives them, when you run a simulation like this, it gives you the ability to pre-position assets in different locations just under the guise of simulation. But in actuality, you're putting people where you need them when these simulations go live. And so I've been wondering recently if the rioting and the protesting and all of this isn't the pretext that's being used to increasingly justify, maybe say like a UN takeover, somebody from the UN coming in and creating some sort of pretext for martial law. And then what do you know? We have the elections, and then martial law breaks out. And isn't it convenient that all these assets were already put in place to be right where they needed to be the minute everything kicked off, and so that you can lock down everybody and whatever. So we don't need a crystal ball. We just need to read their writings and listen to what they talk about at the Atlantic Council and Council on Foreign Relations and these Event 201 simulations with Bill and Melinda Gates and World Economic Forum. And the World Economic Forum is telling you what's coming. I mean, all you have to do is open your ears and listen to what they're talking about. And it is a dystopian, nightmarish future, all painted under under this picture of we're just trying to move into the fourth industrial revolution. And isn't that great? We're all going to have better jobs, and it's going to be about sustainability and all this fluffy stuff. But in actuality, it's going to be the end of the world that we recognize. And unfortunately, they have, we've already seen what the American public will do in a situation like this. We will stand there and applaud as the troops walk down the street instead of, standing up for ourselves, because we've been so conditioned that like our freedom is some sort of inconvenience for us or something to just be handed over. It's frankly, it's embarrassing. But like Whitney's right. I mean, the more you talk about this, the more you talk about the surprise that's coming, it makes it less of a surprise and more along the lines of, hey, weren't we talking about this a couple months earlier? And so people can wake up to it. So we have to make this a conversation, even if it's not a pleasant one, because we don't benefit if we're completely caught off guard by what is coming November 3rd. And I think all of us know that there's some fuckery afoot coming for the elections. I mean, I think that's a guarantee. So it's just, what flavor are we going to get? And it's unfortunately, if it's what Whitney is talking about, if it's these scenarios that they're running, it's the type of flavor that nobody likes.
I'd like to have Jeffrey pop in here for a bit.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, what's up, Jeff?
What's up?
It's awesome to see you here. It's nice to meet some of you guys I've never met before, but it's awesome to be in the room here with all you domestic terrorists talking about the myths, all these myths of the chaos of the world. But I mean, honestly, it's I appreciate all of you guys, obviously, for the invite. Just being able to hang with you guys is awesome. I'm hanging out with Burmis a couple weeks ago. You guys have kind of thrown these terms in kind of separately, but as long as we get caught up in kind of the nuance of this, what I like to call an asymmetrical warfare. But at the large chess game is this eugenics-based, transhumanist, technocratic authoritarianism that's going to probably take a long time to tease out. But in game, that's kind of what it is. And again, we all know the fix is in. This is that Hegelian dialectic of bringing order to the chaos that they created. And I just I was just talking to a good friend a little bit ago. Just how bad will it get? I know they've been packing the powder keg for a long time now. So what's going to be that spark? Is it going to be one of these small catalyzing events? I mean, I don't know if I'm dating myself saying this, but the Falling Down movie, the thing that set him off was not getting his breakfast. What's it going to be that sets everyone off or sets this whole thing off? Because I've hate to be pessimistic about it because for a long time, it's like, hey, what if this happens? What's going to happen if this happens? And for me, it's kind of a foregone conclusion at this point. It's no longer a matter of if certain things are going to happen. It's a matter of when and what's going to start it. But it's and leading up to that 2020 election, excuse me, unemployment money's gone. People's jobs are gone. We're just going to see more and more chaos leading up to the election. I don't know how bad you guys think it's going to get. I just have a very unsettling feeling when you see just kind of what's happened right now when people's bellies are relatively full. Let alone this kind of organized chaos we're seeing. So I don't know. My 2 cents.
BRV,
Graham?
Yeah. Sorry. BRV or Graham, you guys want to weigh in?
I'll jump in here real quick, man. How's everybody doing?
Good, Billy Ray. How are you, man? Good. I'm glad.
Good. My name is Billy Ray Valentine. What was that, buddy?
I said I'm glad you were able to make it today. Thanks for jumping on.
Man, thanks for the invite, man. I really appreciate it. It's great to be in the company of everybody here, man. Really quickly, right? So we were talking about a crystal ball or, just reading the documents and figuring out what's going on and looking at the simulations. In reality, all we really have to do is live and observe, because it's playing out as day throughout my lifetime, what's been going on. And I don't have to read any of the documents to figure it out. I'm a pro wrestling fan, so I know when I'm being worked, right? And from administration to administration to administration, nothing really changes. It's just a baton that's been handed down, plain and simple. And what's going on now is really it's a reincorporation of the people into the left-right paradigm. Everybody is in this game. Even in our community with QAnon, they're in this game. We're thinking that we're going to make some type of a difference here by electing Donald Trump or Joe Biden. And there's not going to be any difference. It's only going to get worse. And I think we can all agree on that point alone. It's only going to get worse no matter who gets elected. It's not going to make a difference.
Can we do anything?
I don't know.
Let's talk about something really quick, because there is something right now that is something I think that we're going to have to do if we're going to succeed. And that's, we need the hackers, the real ones, to pull some really Julian Assange type shit. I'm serious. Like, if you're really a hacker out there, that's about our last option, is to put public information that is real evidence, not message board bullshit, about some of these predator class motherfuckers out there. And then we all have to get out in the street and say this extradition by the Trump administration, Grenell, Barr, and all of them on Assange has to end because they have literally criminalized information that goes against the establishment. If you expose war crimes of a certain class of people, that is now not only illegal, even if you're not a United States citizen, but we will bring you here and torture you for the rest of your life. So now I need the real keyboard warriors, not the bullshit decoders, not the memers, the people that can get in there, get criminal information on these motherfuckers, and show the world their fangs. Because most people still don't know. I get in arguments now that it's hip to talk about Bill Gates and say he's corrupt. I've been doing this shit for 15 fucking years. Okay? It isn't news to me that that's an evil, evil man that is a eugenicist and a transhumanist. A lot of people are buying into Elon Musk's bullshit as he puts up Starlink, and DARPA puts up the same thing right now because he wants a factory. Oh, that's great. He wants a fucking factory. Is he calling for your bar to open? Is he calling for the schools to reopen? Is he saying your gym should be reopened? Is he saying that we need to go up against these guys? No, he's telling you to take a goddamn brain chip called Neuralink. So now is the time, while we still have technology on our side and we can expose these people, we need to. I'm not that smart. I'm a simple guy. I'm a simple fucking caveman. But I know there are people out there in the Anon worlds that want justice. Get off your bullshit ass and go. Now is the time.
Let me get in here real quick. Jay, I appreciate everything you said, man. And I also wanted to thank you for telling me to get the hell out of New York when this thing hit. I really appreciate you for that, man. I really do. I was talking to Charlie about it the other day, just letting him know what you told me. But on top of that, man, I don't know if that's enough. I really don't. We have to figure out a way to get that message into the mainstream. Look what Whitney Webb did. And Whitney, how you doing? My name is Billy Ray. I'm a big fan, right?
Thanks.
You did something that was groundbreaking for me when you interviewed a farmer. Okay. And I didn't know much about you. Right. And I heard that interview and I was like, my God, this is it. If the Democrats were serious, right, about getting this dude up and out of office, which they're not, they would have went right to that interview, but they didn't. They ignored it.
He talked about Bill Clinton going to visit Epstein when he was sitting president.
They're all in there together. They're all in there together.
Epstein went to Obama's White House 3 times. I mean,
it was Clinton's White House 3 times.
Oh, okay. But whatever the case may be, Barack Obama apparently went to the island. So at the end of the day, it's just more a matter of why isn't anyone asking why? Everyone's all stuck in the minutia, but nobody's saying like why? Why did all these people lie? And why did Obamagate happen? Because they don't like Donald Trump? Obviously not. It can't possibly be hatred for Donald Trump that is the impetus to all this. It's so much bigger than that. And people are so dumbed down that they're not even saying like, well, why would these people throw their whole lives away? Lifelong FBI agents changing 302s, taking the risk to get caught. I don't, nobody's asking why, because I feel like a lot of people don't want to know. You bring up the child trafficking, 9 out of 10 people are like, oh, I don't know about that. It's impossible. Like the evil that all of us know exists is impossible. And I think people are in denial. And as long as they're stuck in it's kind of like Watergate. No, it's about so much worse than that. But nobody's asking why. And as long as nobody asks why, then they can stay in, the cognitive dissonance that, it's just another election. And it's not. But I feel like, what can we do? I'm so sick of hearing all the stories. I want to hear, what can we do? Can we do anything? Are we just sitting here waiting for the next thing?
People are protesting. I mean,
they're out in the streets.
Yeah, they're out in the streets. The problem is that you're just not seeing it on social media. I mean, Del Bigtree, who's actually going to be with us, hopefully on our next episode. I was trying to get him on this episode because he just got banned off YouTube, which is ridiculous. And so, I mean, I think there's more like-minded people like us than we think. The problem is those aren't the people we're seeing on social media because their voices are being suppressed. And I think, doing these shows, I mean, all of us just talking to people, networking, I'm sure a lot of us have fans contacting us. We're out there. There's people who are upset. I mean, in Massachusetts, they just did another travel ban type thing, Baker said that $500 a day, a fine if you don't quarantine. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Who can afford $500 a day? Like a fine, like that's crazy. And it's like, he says this and I'm outraged, and we just assume like there's nobody upset about it. Like, how he's just saying this on TV and nobody's upset. And you talk to people and people are upset. But the problem is those voices are being suppressed. That's why we do need to have these conversations. If it's for no other reason, it's to let people know that, like, hey, we're upset too. There are people out there that are upset, and we need to do our best to let people know, like, go out there, protest, talk, start spreading this, like, let people know, because the problem is there's a lot of public shaming, and a lot of people do believe that they're in a bubble. Like, oh, I'm the only one who thinks this is all fucked up, that kids have to wear masks. I'm the only one who thinks that, that all the, the whole world is going to shit, and like all these regulations and everything is insane. And then, when they hear these type of conversations, they're like, oh crap, I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people out there upset. But the problem is, and that's what initiated the first Union of the Unwanted. We called ourselves the Unwanted because of the censorship. Well, it was actually Mike's very catchy name that he came up with, but it was because of the censorship, because of the fact that these conversations aren't being heard. These conversations are being censored. And that alone, regardless what side you're on, if that alone should make you wonder, like, why can't we have these conversations? Why are people like Del Bigtree, who a lot of times is having just people on, experts, people who are PhDs, doctors, why are people like that being censored? Why are these doctors on the front line? Why are those videos being taken down? Because they have decided what truth is, and they're force feeding you their truth. And that's what we have to fight against.
So,
well, I think that's sorry.
No, we were asking the question, what can be done to stop this? I'm going to come up with 2 Looney Tune ideas. Okay. These are 2 Looney Tune Hail Mary passes to possibly stop this. If there's any, I don't know if this is going to happen at the general level, like general, colonel, but there might be some constitutional-minded military that might step in to stop this. I think that's a Hail Mary pass. If things starts to roll along to where it's very obvious we're under an authoritarian control from unelected bureaucrats, and someone, maybe a group, may try to step in for some kind of military coup. I think that's unlikely. The even further Hail Mary pass would be to make everything pause and to change everyone's attention to something, and that can only be a form of UFO disclosure.
Three Gorges Dam, maybe.
I knew that was coming.
Listen. You don't think it's a coinky dink that they bring out we've got an off-world craft bullshit?
No. It's all about the narrative.
They just had one in China too.
I am a big proponent that anything is possible. I am by no means the authority on any fucking thing. We all believe goofy shit, right? That's why this doctor with the hydroxychloroquine, if she did 350 patients and they survived and they did well, that's all I care about. I don't care about demon semen. I don't care if people.
I do.
Hey, that stuff's true too. That stuff's true in your thing too.
I agree.
We all believe in goofy shit. The fucking
buy it from America, I think.
We came from a magic fucking bang. I don't buy it. All right. But when you look at propulsion technology, the last thing they've ever disclosed to us is what? The Saturn V rocket. That's why fucking Elon Musk ain't going to the moon or Mars or any of that bullshit. It's militarizing space. Get it through your head. And then on the flip of that,
Space Force.
Yeah. What's the other thing that we've seen? Literally the last thing we saw was from the Gulf War, the stealth bomber. Do you think our propulsion systems are 30 fucking years old? Of course they're not. They never have been. Annie Jacobson has done amazing work on Area 51, DARPA, and Project Paperclip. And when you've been following this as long as I have, that is a huge nexus of intelligence. And if you think it's a coincidence in 2020 that the History Channel isn't about world wars or how the banksters are evil or how real politicians did go up against them in the day, and now it's about ancient fucking aliens, that's the program, guys. Like, that's the new religion. And I hate to say it like that, but the chances that we, if this is some alien plot, listen, it could be aliens, interdimensional demons. I know I can fight people. I'm on their level. Everything else is something different. And I just have seen so much disinformation in that field. I always tell people to go watch Mirage Men. It really explains how they proliferate alien disinformation. I'm going to stop. I know I get emotional.
I totally agree with you. That's why it matters how, if there is alien material, how this is disclosed, because this disclosure program started, it was conceived when they thought Hillary Clinton was going to be in office.
Exactly.
So I think that it's really important what the narrative is when this disclosure rolls out. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah. It could be used from both sides, the side that's going to stop globalism or the side that's going to perpetuate this control.
I'd like to remind people in the United States that Obama passed the Smith Modernization Act of 2012, which legalized propaganda inside the United States used on Americans. So whenever we turn on the news from that day forward, it's not to say that they weren't lying their asses off to us before that, but they took the extraordinary step of legalizing it, in my opinion, with the intent of using it. You wouldn't do it if you weren't intending to use it. So whatever we see coming out of our media, let's just say mainstream media, we just always have to remember to apply that factor to it, which is this could potentially be part of the legalized propaganda that they intend to use to deceive us. So, when people say, well, why would the government do that? Or why would the media lie about that? But whoa. Doesn't matter. They legalized it 8 years ago for a specific reason. Is this it? Could be. But it could be used on everything. So when you have these conversations, you interact with people that aren't quite so familiar with these types of topics, it's important to remind them if they say, why would the government lie? Or why would the media lie? Or why? Well, there's a variety of reasons for why they would lie, but just remember to inform them that they made it legal to lie.
Right. Well, that's why they knowingly. But also the hardest part is that I think that the masses aren't engaged. They're just following orders. I hate to say it. I feel like New York City right now, New York City especially for me, people are walking around like zombies. They're not, and people are being fed this. You wear a mask whether you want to or not for the other guy. And, people have to be like, I don't care if you don't wear a mask when you get in the elevator. And you're like, oh, okay, great, I'll take it off. But it's still a matter of people are walking around, at least in New York City, like they're zombies.
But there's some positive stuff happening though. I love chatting with all you guys about this because it makes me feel like when I'm trying to explain to local people or normal people that are asking me what I think is going on, I try and explain the big picture. Seems right on track with what you guys are talking about. I'm not fear mongering when I talk about, mandatory vaccinations and this kind of technocratic takeover. But again, we're kind of being led by the Germans and the Europeans. They won't roll over as easy as us in North America, right? Do you see what's happening there? It's positive.
They're all Nazis according to mainstream media.
Yeah, but fuck the mainstream media. This is, we all know what's, and then look at what's happened last weekend. I saw people protesting about human trafficking. Human trafficking has never been so mainstream as it has been in the last couple months. Everybody's hearing about it, and there's people out in the streets in all the big cities down there doing it. So there is some good stuff happening. But
Graham, that was the smallest, saddest, most tragic protest I've seen in a decade.
It's a start.
The masses don't want to believe it.
People there, and not to discount its validity, but it was heartbreaking to see that there was 15 people, some great signage, virtually no support, and then like a blink of an eye, a fart in the wind, it was gone. That's why I think that even if there was alien disclosure, even if Max Ghislaine says it was Obama, like it would just pass. It would pass in the 12-hour news cycle because, like you said, we could go downtown today in Portland and protest what we were just discussing, fucking human trafficking, and we would be shouted down by hardcore leftist mobs because by protesting anything other than BLM or abolishing the police, then we must be for the oppressive patriarchal system. It doesn't matter. The narrative is fucking set and the mind control is crazy strong. So
I think most people don't want to believe it.
They don't want to think that their uncle is a child molester. Right. They don't want to think that their family member.
Most people don't want to believe that they're shipping children in cargo ships from China all the way up to all these islands, all these people, absolutely nobody but us wants to believe the temple on Epstein Island was what it was. Or
they would rather believe in aliens than to believe that.
Nobody wants to believe it. I say to my mom, well, this isn't even nearly as bad when it gets to the adrenochrome and she's 80 and she's like, I don't want to hear it. You know, it's
No, they
just
shut
it's like
down.
you don't want to hear it because you don't want to believe it. And I mean, I look at, you know, Germany and for many, many years, yeah, you know, you just turn the other way and believe that it's not real and it's not real to you. I mean, the real
story is, guys, that we're dismissing and no one said anything about it. The Rock just bought the XFL. Don't we realize?
Hell yeah.
Yes. Priorities are just whack.
What a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the manufactured outrage, you know, what we're seeing here, it's like, okay, at this point, you know, everyone's out on the streets protesting what they're protesting now because the media told them to go out and do it. Now, at this point, it's up to all of us to stick our flag down in something that we believe in and go for that. You know what I mean? Like if the media was saying go protest human trafficking, everyone would be out protesting human trafficking. You know, it's something
we're doing what we're told.
You know, I'm just like, at this point, I know what I'm sticking to and I'm pushing it hard. And it's just insane right now.
I mean, I don't want to believe it either. You know, it's not just the people out there that really don't want to believe it. I just, whatever evidence I see, if it seems true, I'll investigate it and I'll look in that direction. But I don't want to believe any of this crap.
Absolutely.
Can I just jump in on that too? Because
well, really quick, I just got to say bye because I have to go because of the time.
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
Hey, Whitney.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you, Whitney.
Thanks.
God bless you.
Whitney,
We'll talk to
Likewise,
you.
thank
Great
you.
job.
let's get together this week.
Okay. Bye, Jason. Bye, everyone.
All right,
Bye.
later on.
Thanks, Whitney. Appreciate
No problem. Bye, y'all.
Let me say this. I don't want to believe it either.
Right.
But one of the other things that I really try to stick to, again, because I've been doing this for such a damn long time, is point to things that are on the record and involve such powerful people. I don't have to use the term adrenochrome or Crowley stuff. For instance, Dennis Hassert was the longest serving Speaker of the House Republican ever at the time. He was labeled a serial child molester by a judge. He has never
Dennis
done prison time for
No one
molesting.
remembers that guy.
What's that?
No one remembers that guy's name except for people like us.
Well, again, you have to hammer that home and you say, listen,
I know.
we're talking about things that went back to when he was a gym teacher and a coach in his 40s. Do you think that man stopped molesting fucking kids as he rose to power? And they clicks in their brain. They're like, okay, wait, that's a little different. And then I say, do you also realize that Barney Frank was running an underage house of prostitution out of his DC home in the 80s and got caught? And Stephen Gottlieb not only gave evidence, but they did nothing about it. They had an ethics committee hearing you can watch on C-SPAN now, and they slapped him on the wrist.
Craig Spence, the crackhead who killed himself because he was the fall guy, and he knew it. I mean, he was the middleman.
I mean, there's so many things. Again, I've read Nick Bryant's work and John DeCamp's work, and I've gone far on Sandusky, and I've explained to people that was a pedophile ring too. And it takes literally 90 seconds. And then you ask yourself, why didn't you know that before? And that's a starting point. And that's a Republican. You got guys on the Democratic end. I could name a dozen other of these people. Tom Foley, Ed Murray. These are high-level politicians and high levels of power. All right. And then you haven't even got to Epstein yet, right? I get it's the glamour of Clinton and all this other stuff, but the predator class runs deep, guys. And the pedophiles, unfortunately, the ones that get caught, they're mid-level at best. The high-level guys never make the fucking news, unfortunately. I
can't believe that the Clinton thing and it wasn't even on the news. Nobody even covered it. How disingenuous. If I'm somebody out there, I'm wondering why it wasn't covered. Like nobody covered it. Nobody covered Clinton this weekend. Nobody covered anything. They're ignoring it, and I guess the public's okay with that. I don't know what's going on that people aren't questioning. Why aren't they covering it? It's
insane. Another thing I stumbled across too, I was writing a piece recently about the Finders cult, right? And I know Wikipedia is not, a credible source that we like to refer to, but at the same time, there's no Wikipedia page for the Finders cult. Can you name one other thing in the universe that doesn't have a Wikipedia page, and that there's an FBI vault right here, but yeah, I mean, that's how under the rug it is at this point to go back to stuff that's been proven and declassified and is in the public conscious. But there you go. It's a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because all this, sometimes I'm really positive about the fact that human trafficking and child trafficking has become a conversation you can have with almost like a normie, somebody, and they kind of, they don't look at you like you're crazy. Like people are starting to come around to the fact that like the world really is as crazy as the conspiracy theorists have been saying it is. And then what's scary is how quickly it's like, okay, they just accept it and they move on. Like, oh yeah, people are trafficking kids, and then they just move on. And a little bit, I agree with Billy Ray, and I give you a lot of credit, Billy Ray, for being with us and missing Monday Night Raw right now, because I know you're a wrestling fan.
The worst show in television history, brother. And I got to cover it tomorrow night, so I got to watch it at some point. Anyway,
but it is one of these topics are hard to have or to talk about. I mean, I've had Nick Bryan on my show. We talked about the Franklin scandal. We did like an hour and a half. I mean, as a parent, it's not easy, but I feel like we have to talk about it. These conversations, and Jason's done tons of work on a lot of these cults, the Finders. I mean, he talks about this stuff all the time too, and it's not easy. I mean, it gets you worked up. I mean, you see Jason, I don't know if it's because of his lack of luck on Tinder or because of these topics, but he's worked up. And
I don't know how you couldn't be. Like,
really going at him.
Listen, when you find out there's a bunch of people posing as Christian conservatives, especially in the 80s and 90s. And then even, as you progress, these somehow authoritative moral figures, and they're into the occult and they're raping fucking kids. Yeah. Someone should step up to the plate. like, how could anybody be okay with that? I'm not even a religious guy, but you see how these people have been fleeced. You look at the history of the Bush family and Skull and Bones and their little clubs, and I get it. A lot of it's just play, but some of it is very dark. And
that's why I jump back to Hollywood and all my years out there, because I gotta say, people out there know. People know about Standard Hotel. People know about the tunnels under under Chateau Marmont that go across the street. People know about the Long Beach port. People know. It's very common. And also, Heidi Fleiss was one. I mean, all these people, they know. They all know.
The problem is nobody talks about it until after somebody finally gets arrested or gets caught, because it's like, you look at Jimmy Savile, right? In the UK, same thing. Like, after that happened, everybody's
look at Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen was, we knew about him with Corey Haim. He's also has had sex with women after he had AIDS and didn't tell them. And he's a free man, and he can still probably get jobs, so like the problem is bigger than that. It goes back so much farther, but I'm telling you, they're all connected. And when you ask me, people say to me, is anyone in Hollywood not involved? And I say, past a certain level, especially talent, past a certain level, you're involved, even if you're not participating. And I know so many people who are on those flight logs. I mean, know them intimately, work for them, whatever. Do I think that they all participated in child sacrifice and rape and that? No. But do I think they all knew? Yeah, I do.
So it's very similar to politics, right? Like, once you get to a certain level of politics, if you're playing along, you're in. Yeah, because if you get to that level, it's only because you're either shutting your mouth or you're a part of the game. Yeah.
Right.
I got a quick question. Yeah, and as far as getting people, I mean, somebody said it a little bit ago. It's really hard to understand and really grasp how deep and dark this whole pedophilia thing goes, because it is so dark. The ritualistic part of it. How much do you guys think the whole, whatever it was a couple of years ago, Pizzagate, quote unquote, muddied the waters, because the narrative was, Hillary Clinton's running this XYZ thing out of a pizza. And it just it was obviously horseshit on its face, but then people couldn't even take it seriously when you start talking about, no. Pizzagate there might have been something there, but Pedogate, the trafficking of human beings as well as human beings' organs, as I don't know if anybody's mentioned, is absolutely real, and it's been on for a very long time. But my question is, how much do you think guys think Pizzagate muddied the waters for your layperson to just kind of blow this off?
Well, I think it's done by design, man.
Speak on that.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead. Finish up. Go ahead.
I think that part of the problem with like the shock and awe value of a situation like Pizzagate, or even like this Wayfair thing, when at the same day of the Wayfair Twitter conspiracy thing, there was an actual 30,000 person pedophilia bust in Germany. Exactly. And made no national news. But the thing about the whole the child abuse, child sacrifice, pedophilia shit, like you said, Mel, it goes so back, so far. I'm talking thousands of years. This is this is part of the human shadow of our human culture. This is something that I think for people like us and people that are not like us to actually fight back and try to quell, we have to first be able to embrace the fact that it is a legitimate, although perverse and horrifying aspect of our human culture as a whole. We go back, all of mythology is absolutely based foundationally on sacrifice, particularly the sacrifice of human children,
right,
for whatever reason. And now it's all being, and so the Pizzagate thing, to talk about that, Jeff, for a minute, this is another politicized spin to keep people fucking fighting. It's another dialectic. It's it's Hillary Clinton,
Hillary and Vanessa were making jokes about it on TV,
and it just goes on and on and on. And so the more we just get distracted with the humorous side and the dialectic, the more we take our eyes off of the real mythological foundational base of our human culture. This is the thing that we have to accept first, and then unwind and unravel like any other trauma that's within our whole body collectively as a human being. And
even though it does go far back, as like you said, do you think, how much do you guys think is just people are just perverse that way, or how much do you guys think it has to do with, for lack of a better term, dark arts or dark magic?
There's a cult.
Absolutely.
For real. And especially in Hollywood and DC, they're a cult. But it also goes back to you don't have to believe what they believe, but they do believe it. And there is something about these rituals with especially pedophilia and little boys. I'm sorry to say it, it's disgusting. But these guys, it's a ritual. It's part of getting to the next level in their cults. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, it's disgusting, but it's true. Well, they think that they're taking on the life force of that child, but I'm telling you that these kids are raised like this. And I hate to say it, I went to school in New York and everything. I actually know some of these kids, and I'm positive that they were abused, and now they are abusers. And I know that a lot of these people, Ghislaine Maxwell, I saw Robert Downey Jr. came out with something recently. A lot of these people are going to come out and say they were abused, therefore they're not guilty. But, they pass it down and we all want to sit there. But all you have to do is look at the facts of some of these people, all the way back to like River Phoenix, David Geffens. Yeah, I mean, I know so much about these guys, and I'm telling you that there is a cult. And if you're in the cult, you need to pay. It's just like getting your thing with Nexium, same thing. You're getting that they own you.
How many of the past presidents in the last 100, 150 years have disappeared when they're young boys, and they go through, what kind of rituals are they going through?
Amen. Right. Dave McGowan right there. I got you, Graham.
Well, once you're owned, you're owned. And that's it. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were basically the biggest blackmailers of all time. Now, I'm at a point where I get the Q movement and I get the plan. But you know what? I'd like to see some evidence. I really would. At this point, I'm so sick of it. I just feel like we need to either like put up or shut up. I mean, it's getting to like a really ugly level. I've been researching this.
Hey, let me jump in here for a sec.
Okay, go ahead.
If you don't mind. To the brother's statement, about how much is in there to muddy the waters, like a Pizzagate or a Wayfair. Wayfair's complete and total nonsense. Right. So we go back to something that Jason said here, that he wants to see the real hackers come out. Right. These QAnoners, they're busy looking for something that doesn't exist. Right. But there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of, they do investigations and they're able to uncover some things that might be rooted somewhere in reality. But the majority of it is just nonsense. And we're never going to get anywhere if we keep going that way.
Can I go too? Because let's bring it back to Pizzagate, because there's like I saw what happened a lot with 9/11 Truth. Only it was in an exponential level. 9/11 Truth took years to culminate, and it spoke a different language because it was the breakthrough in production and video being available to the world at the click of a button. More and more people with PCs, laptops, right? That was already in place when this happened. Now, had you focused on emails that had 3 children by name and age in a hot tub for entertainment on a farm, and you didn't focus on so much how grotesque everything was happening at a comment, and then convolute the idea that people were absolutely saying kids were being trafficked out of that pizza place. Anybody that reads those things and checks into Jim Alefantis' Instagram, where he literally has his avatar as the Greek god of pedophilia, knows that he's a fucking creep, right? There's no doubt. I accidentally tweeted about him in 2012 because he was in a lawsuit with his then boyfriend, David Brock, whose previous boyfriend was actually suing them, had no idea who the guy was. And then it kind of breaks out. And the only reason I found that out is because I basically Googled whether I'd ever reported on the guy previously. Now, he's a creep, and he's probably into some bad shit. But they knew if they spun it that these crazy people think that he was in a pizza place and
Right.
just trapping children out of
100%.
And then on top of that, to not even look a little bit harder at what they claimed happened to that computer. In the articles, they say one of those bullets went through the hard drive.
Right.
But you have video footage where you clearly see the bullet hole that just went through the case. And I'm not that smart, but I can put a computer together and I know where the hard drive it is. And I know they also recovered hard drives from 9/11 after those towers came down. So even if it had been shot, which is imagination land, they had what was on that hard drive and they never, ever investigated it. And when I even took that to Mick West, Mr. Professional Debunker, he goes, well, the bullet hole clearly isn't through the hard drive. And I go, exactly. So they have it. So why didn't they look at it? And it's just crickets, man. So there was something there. There was a lot there, but we should have focused on that. Instead, we let the media spin it that Hillary Clinton was running a sex slave ring out of there. Listen, Clinton's dirty. Podesta's dirty. Both Podesta's fucking filthy, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you do focus on the Marina Abramovich spirit cooking and you tell it like it is, instead of everybody's a Satan worshiper, you say, no, this is some woman who says she does occult rituals. And one of her old art things happened to be menstruation blood, semen, and a bunch of other gross piss and shit. And they were doing something weird there, exactly delicious. And then you have all these weird words. You put it to somebody like that, all of a sudden it's a little different than what the media spun it. But that's the same thing with 9/11. What happened? No planes hit the towers, space beams, TV fakery, every bullshit theory you could get out there, they tried to and pushed. And to this day, you got a guy who might not be able to remember his name, but I remember that he covered up the Pakistani role in 9/11. Joe Biden is on camera multiple times, clearly talking about the $100,000 wire transfer from General Mahmoud Ahmed over to Muhammad Atta prior to the thing. That was facilitated by a guy named Omar Saeed Sheikh, the guy that they convicted of beheading Daniel Pearl, also who they let go 2 months ago, even though they convicted him of that. I mean, this guy is a high-level middleman predator class op, and they just roll him out. And no one's talking about that. And that's all documented shit. So that's the problem. We let the media run with the narrative. Fake news isn't new to 2015 or 2016 or any of that bullshit. It's been here for decades. The CIA is...
I gotta go in a couple of minutes. I'll ask you guys. I'm glad you brought that up, Jason, because the media for Mockingbird, they've been fanning the flames of disinformation, getting us into these fake wars, spinning this shit about, BLM being a free man or any of this. What are your guys' thoughts on having the media in so much form accountable for what their complicity is so much of all of this? Right now, they're complicit, basically a communist insurgency. But over history, they've been complicit getting us into these bullshit wars where so many people are holding the media accountable.
Jeff, your connection was kind of shitty. I'm sure you made.
I don't know you're rolling out so honest, Rick.
I'm sure you made a really valid point.
I was just asking, am I fucked up still? I apologize.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It sounds like it might be your microphone or something, right? Maybe.
It sounds like he's on a lag, that Wi-Fi lag.
Yeah, it's his Wi-Fi, man.
Oh, maybe
I deal with it all the time. It's his Wi-Fi.
Media accountability.
There is none.
All right.
There's never been media accountability. That's the problem. We never held the media's feet to the fire. And we didn't even, let's give you an example of why Trump was never going to take on the deep state. This is when I knew it was a hoax. He could only do so much. He promised us the JFK documents, not once, but twice. Okay. I went through what he did put out, and there was a lot of new stuff. I did learn a lot. I got a whole thing about Warren C. DeBruy being the key to what really happened there and having an actual 800-page report the day of and then into the assassination that nobody's seen and the FBI's confirmed. Another story altogether. But when he couldn't reveal the deep state not once but twice from 50 plus years ago, what made you think he was going to defeat them this time around?
Yep.
All right. That's why we listen, I don't know what to say. This used to be a constitutional republic, but we've seeped into even beyond the national security state that we allowed after the Reagan administration, where it really ramped up, where continuity of government was completely revamped. And I mean, the real takeover of this country and the decimation of any kind of checks and balances we ever had were gone. So
what are we going to do about it?
You know what?
Can we do anything?
I
want to know.
Because at the end of the day, they're human beings, right? There's got to be a way. And there's got to be a way we can seep into the public consciousness. And because I don't want to wear a mask doesn't mean I'm MAGA for life. But unfortunately, these people are so triggered that they think one thing means the other and they have no nuance anymore. We've lived here, Hollywood. We have lived in an ever-growing, ever more accessible celebritard culture for some time now, where they have pushed these false idols generationally of, glitz and glam and sex and just no accountability whatsoever. And you deserve everything and you're fucking special. Well, the thing is, if you want to tap into that, you got to work for it. Everybody does have a great power, but most of us are too busy taking fucking 74 pictures of our meal in a day so we can share it with the world, and we're not working towards anything. So I don't know. We got to spiritually reach people. And I'm not a preacher, but I do know that if we want a chance at this, the people at the top are as cunning as it gets. They've got the fucking population walking around in 95-degree weather with a goddamn piece of paper.
Not just the population, Jason, but our kids too, man.
I know.
Kids. I just did a 35-minute podcast episode 2 days ago for my show, Up is Down, about the Oregon mandate for kids over 5 years old to wear fucking masks outside. And it's such an inversion. It pisses me off so bad. I'm not going to get started on it. I promise, but
I'm with you, Gina.
Kids in New York City are scared to leave their homes.
They're holding our children as leverage. That's the thing. And I mean,
in spaceships here. It's so fun.
And you look at the sad state of affairs of how people actually do protests. We don't go out there people go out there with signs, and now they go out there with fucking Roman candles. But everyone, on the one hand, has a Roman candle. The other one, they have a phone. Like, they're just recording themselves in this protest. Everyone wants to be a star. So the idea of actually people coming together for something as horrible like child trafficking, which I think is the number one fucking issue, ultimately, good luck getting anyone to do that without a phone in their hands to record themselves doing it, because no one's going to do anything, it seems, unless there's an audience watching them do it. That's why this whole take a knee thing was like taking the nation by storm. Everyone's taking a knee. People were coming and saying, and I'm like, listen, no one is going to go to the store and make someone take a knee for them unless they're fucking recording it and uploading it somewhere.
We don't have to do that at the store yet.
I think there is one place that there is some hope. I kind of come here from the vaccine world a little bit more, and like I'm from Oregon. We have Oregonians for Medical Freedom, and like the people that are seeing this vaccine being rolled out, they are not going to fucking do it. And there are thousands of people that will not do it. And you see like across the country, when they're trying to push the mandates and stuff, there are like thousands of parents standing out the courthouses like every time. And those the media is not covering it, but that shit's happening like for the last couple of years. That's happening all over the country. And like I see this like daily. Those people will not do that. So there's if we can help ignite them, like that's my hope in this. That we can at least if we're not willing to take a vaccine, I'm not willing to mask my kids. I know that, and, that's my 2 cents.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've had the CT Freedom Alliance on my show, and they're a Connecticut group that are fighting against the state of Connecticut, because they're trying to get rid of the religious exemptions, and they were fighting against that. Now they have a new group called like the We the Patriots something. They're going to actually be back on my show soon, and they're basically suing the government for mandated masks. So there are groups out there. There's people who are doing things. One of the founders, Brian Festa. He's actually a attorney who has a vaccine injured child, and that's what motivated him to get involved in this whole thing. And yeah, I mean, it is. I'm with Dean, and I think with a lot of you guys, when you have kids, it makes you mad, and it motivates you more than any. Like, you can affect me, whatever. I'll get upset. I'll get over it. But when it affects my kids, it's like it makes me upset to a whole nother level. And I think the good thing about that is that a lot of the most vocal people and the people who are out there protesting and actually doing something and getting signatures and all that stuff are pissed off parents. You look at the whole GMO movement. A lot of moms. I mean, I talked to a lot of moms who are upset, who were, they would eat probably, they weren't so concerned about what they were eating, but when they were feeding somebody else and, Joe, what's up? And when they're feeding somebody else, and you're thinking about your kids, then all of a sudden it's like you're much more wary about what you're giving them and what's going on. Same thing with the vaccines. I mean, I said this in some cases it's the other way around. I've said this on one of the previous shows about how many people would just let the pediatrician stick any needle they wanted in their kids, but now when they're like, hey, we might have this coronavirus vaccine mandated, they're like, oh fuck, I'm not taking no coronavirus vaccine. I'm like, motherfucker, you just were okay with the pediatrician just sticking any needle in your kid and you didn't ask questions, and all of a sudden it's your turn, and now you're a little like you're a little bit more aware of the fact that maybe we shouldn't just be taking Big Pharma's word for it, and that's the thing about Big Pharma. It's like we all agree that Big Pharma is corrupt and has been sued for corruption and conspiracies and giving people drugs that hurt them. And yet there's still people out there who think like the pharmaceutical department is like the moral department of Big Pharma, right? It's nonsense. It's crazy. And now I'm getting worked up because we're talking about kids. I told you.
Because the government has
the vaccine overreach. The vaccine overreach could be their downfall. I mean, the size of their balls. I mean, the way they went and they instantly took down the frontline doctors. I mean, they're pushing their luck, I think.
Yeah, that might be true. That might be the one place everyone can agree that, like, what we're blindly going to just trust these people that seem so nefarious. And it's also, like I said, I think most people want to believe that it's not real, that nobody would want to hurt us, that these vaccines can't be bad for us. I just think people are in denial in the masses, at least.
They know that you won't just blindly trust Big Pharma. So what they have done over the last couple of months, if you are paying attention to this, looking at it from this sort of perspective, they're putting nurses and doctors on pedestals in the way that they did with the troops during 2002, 2003, for,
the yellow ribbon.
Yellow ribbons.
It's the yellow ribbon, dude, and the TikTok dancing.
Go out clapping for the nurses, clapping for the doctors, putting them on some sort of, mythical, status, because those are the people that are going to be administering the vaccines. So it's much easier for them to get you to do it when you see them as heroes, when you see them as above reproach.
Yeah, but wait, Charlie, they're only heroes. They're only heroes if they're pushing the narrative. Because if there are all the many doctors that have been saying the opposite thing, then they're not heroes, and you suppress those voices, and that's what pisses me off. It's like, wait, if it's about doctors being heroes and we should listen to Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, well, there's a lot of other people who have that are considered doctors and have PhDs and went to school for medicine who have different opinions. Why aren't their opinions valid? And like I always tell people, I'm like, it's not abnormal. It's not unusual for people to get a second opinion from another doctor. Why? Because we agree that sometimes doctors have different opinions. So why is that okay to accept in all cases except this? Now all of a sudden it's like, no, we've decided, and this goes back to what I said previously. Like, they're deciding what truth is, and only people who agree with that truth can be heard. Everybody else is going to be censored.
And if you look at the frontline doctors, that was 600 doctors. Even if you believe the discrediting of one, there's 599 other opinions to choose from.
Listen, demon sperm has not been discredited.
That's right, sir. That is right, sir.
It definitely exists.
Come on, man.
Great.
Can I get that on Amazon? Is that
back on her Twitter? It came out
on
Alibaba.
Well, Rick,
probably is Alibaba. But I don't want fake demon sperm from China. I want real demon sperm.
I don't want counterfeit demon sperm.
I want the real. I want locally grown, organic,
non-GMO demon sperm.
Well, yeah, she owned that on her Twitter. She came out and straight up said on her page, she's like, a lot of you need protection from demon sperm. That's for sure. Yeah.
The irony is, we talk about
batch demon sperm.
Beyond that, talk about incubus and succubus all the time. I mean, there's a lot of people who have legit issues with this stuff. I mean,
I'm with Graham.
Nighttime demonic attacks is not something to laugh at. So I back her up on her demon sperm.
I'm with her.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So sure. I joined because y'all started talking about the protest and actually getting out on the street. And I will tell you, I don't know if it's going to work. But I got my Come on, go.
Channel your inner Elf Jones.
There it goes. I'm channeling. Here. Come on, fucker. God damn it. Whatever.
Performance
I am
anxiety.
about to get out on
China?
the street. I'm about to get out on the streets because I'm so fucking pissed off about this shit where it's like, really, you all are going to wear masks. You're all going to lecture everybody about these stupid masks. There's so much information. I've had people say, oh, there's no proof that masks are not beneficial. And it's like, Google it. There's like some. There's like a little bit, you know? So it's like there is this split the difference thing where, you know, as Ricky was talking about with the experts, it's like we all got to trust the experts. It's like, well, wait a minute. What about the experts that don't go along with that narrative? Y'all don't want to listen to them, you know? And that's what pisses me off the most, where it's like, you know, my brother literally got fired for combating the narrative, and he's a nurse. He's a registered nurse who literally got fired for challenging the administration because they cut off an entire section of the hospital for beds that never got filled. So, you know, like, I know that this stuff is bullshit. I know that it's bullshit. And so it pisses me off that everyone else in the world wants to ride along on this goddamn train and not go, you know what, maybe this is, there's not enough evidence to support this. You know what I mean? It's like you question the moon landing and all of a sudden you're a fucking lunatic. But here it's the prediction was 2 million plus people were going to die worldwide. I don't think we're even close to 400,000.
Yeah. Well, but also the masses are healthy. It's a small amount of people that are unwell and getting sick and are but it's like the masses are healthy, and yet the masses are the ones that are protecting themselves rather than it being the people that are unhealthy or don't feel well or whatever, stay home or wear a mask. But no, it's like everyone has to. So
Donald Trump said today during the press conference the average age is 78.
I know.
78. So think about it. So the average age is 78, but the lockdowns, right? The businesses being shut down, the gyms being shut down, the schools wearing masks. So all these regulations, who the fuck are they mostly affecting? Not the 78-year-olds who are at home watching freaking, you know, Drew Carey on The Price is Right. I mean, the rest of us who want to leave and actually live our lives and experience lives, you know, our things and be with people and be in social atmospheres, we're the ones most affected, but yet we're the ones least at risk. Why? Right. How does that make any sense? How are people accepting this? I mean, it drives me crazy. But you know what? If you sit down and you have a conversation with most people, even people who seem like they are completely in the other direction, when you start just I had a conversation with somebody at the gym the other day. They're like, hey, you do a podcast, and they just start talking to me, small talk. And I'm just like, yeah, but the numbers are going up. I'm like, first of all, let's just start there. The numbers, the tests we know give false positives. Okay. Without a doubt, we know the tests give false positives. We know that the CDC has said themselves that there's even if you test positive, you know, it could be a false positive, but even if it was a real positive, that coronavirus that they are testing for might not even be the one that causes COVID-19. They can't specify. So everything that this is all built on, and
they're retesting the same people who were tested supposed to be positive.
And the pool testing. The pool testing's the big one now. I think that's what everybody's starting to adopt that. And that's right in their own documents.
Yeah. And
start tracking back and give all these potential cases and call them cases. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Yeah, and what about now you're hearing story, and I just heard another one today, I'm hearing this over and over again, people who are waiting in line to get tested, to decide that, you know, I've been here for an hour, 2 hours, I'm just going to go home, or people who are registered, and then they're getting positive test results in the mail. This is real. I think I talked about this on a previous one, maybe might have been my podcast, but how even the governor of Florida was saying this during a press conference. I mean, this isn't conspiracy theory. He was asked about it, and he said during the press conference, I've been hearing this enough where I think we should look into it. Like, why isn't this like...
Well, it was confirmed, Ricky. That was 100% confirmed. So what was happening, and just so everybody understands, and they totally copped to it, say I was number 7 in line, right? But I leave. And number 8 in line is now 7 in line, but they come up positive. Well, that means that I really came up positive and not that person in line. So basically that just means the person before them, or because it just keeps getting mismatched, all of it. This one woman who they called up, for instance, that they gave a positive to, right? She ended up having to test 3 times negative before they would let her unquarantine. 3 times. She had to test negative and prove that she never actually took the test. So that's how flawed the system is. It's absolutely insane. And you know what? There are some people protesting. This was today. This is Erin, the nurse who was viral for about a week, and then they took her down. She did that interview with Del Bigtree, also now gone forever. It is alarming, because when you can go in there and clearly show that they are literally taking dead bodies that were not COVID positive and then making them COVID positive, all of it has to be questioned. There's no doubt about it. And you know me, I think this is very real. I mean, some of the other weird aspects to me that nobody seems to be talking about is, for instance, the CCP said this was a bioweapon they got attacked with. A lot of Iranians on the inside of their government died very quickly when they got attacked with it, and they joined the CCP. Our guy Pompeo is saying they have evidence it came from the Wuhan lab. So we're really only seeing like chapter 1 or 2 of this narrative of what this thing even fucking is. All right. And believe me, it's being spun. So if you have Pompeo out there saying it's the CCP and it definitely came out of the Wuhan lab, but we're going to go with the narrative that it leaked out of the Wuhan lab and they knew about it and it went from a bat to a human, they covered that up. Not that it's a bioweapon. You know what I'm saying? No, they were trying to do a vaccine or they're good. But at the same time, you look at those casualties that were very fast in Iran, and you have to ask the question, is that even the same thing? You talk about the mainstream media talking about mutations already, right? They can tell you there's already 2-3 strains of this thing that they've confirmed, and there are 6 different types of symptoms, and all the tests do different things, number one. But then you see some people that actually go through a bad route of it, and they do have cystic fibrosis-like symptoms, and it is in their testicles. And all of a sudden, their fertility is down. So we have to stop looking at this as like number one-dimensional, or that this is even a nation-state deal. I think this is a multidimensional thing we're getting hit with. And again, they've already covered their asses by saying whatever they give the public doesn't even have to stop it. You can still test positive after you take it. Why in the world would anybody take that shot when they are telling you it does not prevent COVID-1984? Meanwhile, you got Fauci up there who literally was asked when it was mutated. He said that doesn't mean it changed. In the 10-word definition for mutation, change comes up twice. It absolutely means it fucking changed. Okay? So again, we're in this really weird world where the public's now slowly getting sports back and there's fun avatars out there and, oh, that's so cool. It's a cardboard cutout of me. None of this is fucking fun. None of it. And people are being trained to accept it. And man, again, I wish there were more people out there today.
Look at Fauci. He was asked when he was being questioned about the protests. Did the protests cause the spread? And he just tiptoed around that question. It's like, and this is the guy that you guys are all saying, well, just believe Fauci. He's playing this political game the same way everybody else is. Okay.
Ricky, they just gave him, I cannot fucking make this up, alongside Colin Kaepernick, a social change award from the RFK Ripple Society. Anybody can look it up. Why in the world?
You might as well. I mean, if Obama can get a peace prize for bombing American citizens overseas, then I don't see how this is out of the ordinary. But I will say that we played that on our our Big Dumb Mouth show on our last episode with Fauci, and it was absolutely insane to watch him do this tip. He's doing like a little dance around, like, dude, just answer the question. Do the protest. I mean,
speaking of little dance, my prediction, he's going to be with the next season of Dance with the Stars.
Oh, for sure.
Probably. He was on the cover of InStyle. I mean, could you vomit? And I heard about his baseball card. Yeah,
he wants to be a celebrity. That's the thing. Well, people don't realize that he enjoyed being on TV. He liked the
but he's been a celebrity for decades. We just not in our world, but in that World Health Organization and
Dr. Judy. Yeah, Dr. Judy was talking about him for a long time.
He's been a celebrity. Yeah, apparently he's so we just got opened up into this world. It's the same people. If you look at all these, including like World Health Organization, NIH, CDC, it's all the same people. They're famous to each other. We don't really matter. And again, they function on a different level where we're just players in their scenario.
If you have an actual pandemic, you don't need a public relations department to tell you about it. You know.
Exactly.
Everybody knows someone that's dead. Everybody knows someone that's sick from it. Everybody knows somebody that's been. You don't need to have, the wear a mask, don't wear a mask. I mean, this is manufactured, of course, because if you noticed during the, June, let's say, things had started to tail off. Restaurants were opening up. People were starting to come back out. People were starting to interact. The numbers were going down, all these things. And then out of nowhere, we had to wear a visual representation of the virus, a mask. Deaths were down, cases were down, hospitals were back open. All those emergency hospitals they had built had shut down. The ships and ports had left. By all accounts, it was over, but it wasn't over for them. They needed to continue and keep it going. So how do you make people scared of an invisible virus? You make a visual representation of it in the form of a mask, make everybody mandatory. They have to wear it. So now when you go out, it's impossible to forget about it. It's the first thing in your mind.
But you know what's also scary? Have you heard people say, we just need Biden to win so we can put an end to this. I've heard people say this.
Oh,
like
I hear
people
that all the time.
Have you guys
that,
seen
Harry Lane?
Okay.
Like people who are Trump supporters,
that's the requirement for it to
people
end,
who are Trump supporters are saying
that's what we're up against, you guys. That's what we're up against. That's the majority. That's why I keep saying, I think to people that I know and talk to, we are so vastly outnumbered, because that is really where the logic starts and stops with the majority of people. That's what we're up against. That's why I think
we're as outnumbered as you think. I think we are out there. I mean, imagine if there wasn't a censorship. I mean, you're hearing
he's
these
in Portland,
conversations,
right? So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What we need to do a truther Tinder, and we'll just start reproducing and then even these numbers. Sorry, Jason.
That'll work in 20 years.
Once I get something, I'll just keep going back to it because it's funny. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah, the Tinder thing doesn't bother me. I just never consider myself a truther. Wired magazine is supposedly doing this 15-year piece. I would assume it's going to come out either at the end of this month or the beginning of September for the 9/11 thing. And he kept trying to pin that on me. And I go, brother, man, we put out Loose Change Second Edition in 2005. We were the 9/11 Truth movement. Luke Rudowski was in New York 9/11 Truth. The term truther didn't exist. And when someone came up to me to say that, it was an insult. And I would have to get into it with them. I've never adopted that. I think there's a big difference between kind of going with what's like, you're woke or you're a truther or this, or am I searching for the truth? Am I willing to admit when I'm wrong? Because that's a real test. I'm not going to be right all the time. I can get that. I'm a human being. I make mistakes. So I've always kind of pride myself on trying to just look for the truth and see where that brings me. And like we talked about before, I don't like when it turns up like this is, it's a good thing. Like with the Wayfair thing, when there were so many holes punched in that, I'm like, oh, fucking A, man. Thank God they're not trafficking kids in cabinets. You know what I'm saying? I'm relieved about something like that. I'm not looking for the most nefarious, sensationalistic stuff. But at the same time, when it's in my face and no one's talking about it, like for instance, you would have never got me to believe that somehow they were going to impeach Trump on the Ukraine scandal, that I watched Joe Biden bragging with fucking Richard Haas at the CFR about basically extorting the guy for fucking $1 billion that he wouldn't get unless the prosecutor dropped it on his son, and laughing about it. I would have never, 18 months from when I covered that story, would have thought, well, they're going to impeach him and Trump's going to take Alan Dershowitz as his lawyer. I mean, we are in fucked up times, man. So to me, it's just like, I try to get to the truth of the matter. Like when Bill Barr says something that's obviously true, like, hey, we shouldn't be mailing in our votes. The mail-in voting is a lot different than absentee voting. I have to agree with that. But then when people are like, he's a hero, I'm like, he obviously covered up the murder of Epstein. And by the way, he's the guy that wrote up the paperwork with Robert Mueller, his best friend at the time, to bring Noriega, our CIA asset, over here. That was just before he was the youngest attorney general of all time. No big deal. You gotta live in a world of reality, and I'm not rooting for heroes or villains or teams or any of that bullshit. And that's how we got to get around it, man. So even with like truther, and I get it, every boomer is out there. I try to remain grounded,
And I feel like the truther term was kind of like the conspiracy theorist term. It was used to kind of discredit people. I mean, you heard Abby Martin being discredited with that term. Oh, she was a truther. I mean, I don't get offended by it because I'm just like, yeah, I'm like seeking the truth. I don't see, you get what I mean. Like, but I get what you mean also that,
it was, Ricky, it was in that period when all of a sudden they took what was a very strong movement asking real questions and then spun it into a conspiracy theory with a new term of truther. And at the same time, there was a thing called the 9/11 Tea Party, the real Tea Party, precursor to what got co-opted into like a Sean Hannity event. They used the fact that many of us were also into libertarian Ron Paul and seen what we had done for a couple years, dumping giant 9/11 commission reports into the ocean. And then they manufactured that movement. Don't let them fool you. Hope and change. You don't think they took that from Luke and We Are Change when it wasn't just Luke, but it was literally an army of people that were armed with a camcorder. Now we all got this. And if we're going to use it, it's someone got triggered at a fucking McDonald's. No. Why aren't we asking Bill Gates or George Soros or some of these top level guys questions? Not that we could get near them right now. But even 6 months ago when we could, the culture has changed. And I think
don't forget that at the same time they started to spin up these, I don't know where the hell it came from, but the holographic planes and the plasma beams and all this stuff. You guys talked about it earlier on the show. It's like, where did this stuff come from? And who is it that believes all this crap?
The mirage manning of every community.
What is that?
It's a mirage manning of every community.
The Mirage Men, which you brought up earlier, I can't remember who brought it up. It might have been Charlie. Jason. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. And I'm not a big UFO or alien guy, but Mike recommended it to me. And I'll tell you what, it is like one of these things where you're just like, there must be something here if you're going to infiltrate it to such an extent and basically put these little traps in there. So as soon as you repeat this little tidbit of information, now all of a sudden I can just dismiss you, and that's what the Mirage Men whole thing is all about. And that I think is what the, 9/11 truth movement got infiltrated by, is like, if you think it's holographic planes, now all of a sudden it's like the whole thing gets thrown out the window. I don't even have to think about it. You're all just a bunch of crazy kooks.
Right.
On that note, guys, I got to run. I thank you. I know I sucked last week or 2 weeks ago when we did this.
You were on the road.
Yeah, it was tough. But I'm going to get on the road again, man. Again, you want my solution? I know it's not in New York State. And unfortunately, in this country, there is going to be real differences in division. I really do believe that. And it's going to be battles of communities and ideals. So you may want to pick a different place to live. I don't know. I don't have all the answers, guys, but I'm trying to find them, and I know you're going to help me. So I'll see you guys on the flip side. Thanks again, Ricky.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for joining
Jason.
us.
Thanks, Jason.
Hell yeah.
Hey, listen, guys, I got a dip too.
Me too.
Yeah.
But I just want to say before I get out of here, first off, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. But I'm from New York too. I'm in the Bronx, and people out here are scared, and they're scared for a reason. It's not, there's a lot of media stuff going on too to amplify that feeling. But there was a lot of things that went on here, and in Manhattan and in Queens and Brooklyn that caused people to, be up in guard and want to put on a mask because they saw people dying around them. Right. And even though it wasn't as huge or as bad as they made it out to be in social media and on the mainstream media is what I meant to say. It was a real deal. There was something going on here. There were hospitals with trucks. Bronx, Lebanon was one of them. Right. And I know people that work at some of these hospitals, and they told me this. So this was a real thing. What they were dying of, man, we can get into all day long. Was it COVID? Was it the intubations? I don't know. But it was something that happened. And that's why people are cautious out here. There's a lot of people that are very scared.
But was it a bad flu? Because I've heard somebody say this, and I kind of agree with them. If somebody just called this H1N2 and just, said,
the Army
it's a bad
did do
flu.
that.
Really?
Yeah, the Army they called it SARS-2, basically.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, if you just called it something that wasn't as scary, because coronavirus is kind of a new term, COVID-19, these are new terms. It was scary. I think people would be like, oh, wow, it's a bad flu going around. Why, have you heard about the bad flu? I mean, the average age is 78, people dying. I mean, It's the flu scarier because it kills fucking young people. I mean, this kills.
I think it's a bad flu for most, but I know some people that are affected by it, that were affected by it, and 4 months later, they're still affected by it. They still have issues going on with their lungs, or something's popping up somewhere. Like it's crazy. Jason Berman said something about this earlier. I think we need to, and hopefully it won't happen, and hopefully it's not, it's not a thing, but we need to look at what this thing is going to do later on, because there's a lot of people that are still complaining about stuff. I had a professor, both his lungs were completely shot and he still hasn't recovered. He's slowly getting back to what he was. So some people, it was just like the flu and they got over it very quickly. Some people were asymptomatic and some people got it really bad. But beyond that, I just wanted to throw that out there. But what I do want to say is, as far as solutions go, and this is very conservative on my part, and I can't claim to be right or anything like that. It's just something I'm throwing out there. We shouldn't look to earn a victory in our lifetimes. None of us here. We'll have small victories here and there. Maybe the anti-vaxxers will give us something with the anti-vax push. I mean, as far as the COVID vaccine goes, will help us in the movement moving forward. But we shouldn't look for a mass victory here because we're probably not going to get it. What we need to do is set a base for our kids. We were talking about kids. I got 2 of them. They're precious. I love them. And I would do anything for them. And what I want to do is give them a solid base where they can fight back, where they'll be in a better position than I was or than anybody else, people around, that they're in a good position to be able to fight the fight in our name and in our ancestors' names and so on and so forth. I think this is the best way to go right now. This is the way we should be looking at it. We should be building this base, reinforcing this base, and giving it to the future. And hopefully we will see a light at the end of the tunnel at some point. I'm very hopeful that we will.
Agreed.
My name is Billy Ray Valentine. Greetings and blessings to all of you guys.
Hey, thanks.
I love that message. Because it is really, it's like the pride in "I told you so" is not going to last. It's got to be a long-term solution. So that message was
Ernest Hancock, when he came on to one of our first one of these shows, he's like, "You guys are the influencers," and it's so true. I mean, you look at everybody who's been on these shows. It doesn't matter if you have 1 download or 1 subscriber, you have thousands of subscribers. Like, those people are listening to us. And, I'm sure just like you guys, I'm like, who the fuck am I? Why does anybody care about my opinion? But people are listening. People watch our shows. People listen to our podcasts. And these conversations are influencing the conversations they're having with their friends, and that's influencing the conversations they're having with their friends. And that's where I'm going to plug the Ripple Effect podcast, because I named it that because I truly believe in the ripple effect. It's not just a name. I truly believe that we can all make a difference, and we never know what impact and who we're influencing that could be even more influential than we are. So right. I think we have to keep that in mind. I mean, the second we believe we can't do anything, we've lost. We have to believe we can do something. And even if it is, and I tell people who listen to my show, even if the only thing you're doing is sparking these conversations, you're doing something. You're helping change things. I think too many people think like, well, what the fuck can I do? I mean, nobody's going to listen to me, but I'm like, that one conversation you have, you might have molded their perspective. You might have planted that seed of doubt. You might have made them go home and go down some rabbit hole that they might have not gone down. So I think we're all doing our part, even if it's something as simple as just having these conversations.
I'm still learning to really brace myself. Once I start figuring out that, this person I'm speaking to is receptive to whatever it is I'm maybe suggesting, I have a hard time like putting a gate on that. And just, I was talking to Frank Zero from the farm a few months back, and we had this, he's like, if people are going to wake up to the idea that maybe coronavirus is a fucking hoax, maybe child trafficking is a real concern, they have to wake up to kind of everything all at once. And I have a hard time not blasting them with everything. Once I see a spark of interest, I'm like, oh, so you're with me? Oh, did you know about this? Did you know about? And then it
scares them off a little bit. It does, because it's like you're giving them too much all at once. Like you're telling them the whole world, the way that they see it could be a lie. But you know what? Even if at that moment they don't seem like they get it, or they're taking it in, or they're resisting a little bit, trust me, some of those people are going home and Googling shit. Some of those people are going home and they're doing their own research, and you're planting the seed. And guess what?
Hit him with that demon seed. That's right, Ricky.
Yeah. And, you know, and the thing is, like, if you plant that seed, right, and then somebody else that they run into is bringing up some of the same things, and somebody else, they're like, you know what, there might be something here. Like, maybe I should look into this. So we're all, like I said, we're all doing our part. That's why I love doing these shows, because everybody, even if we're slightly different with, like, you know, we've had some people on that are Q, some people that are anti-Q, but we're all on the same team. Somebody said this on one of my YouTube videos. They said that it's not left versus right. No, it's not green versus red. It's 1% against. Wait, it rhymed when I read it, but it's the idea that, like, all this, like, green or red.
What you're trying
blue,
to say is up is down. What you're trying to say is up is down.
But it's all of us. Like, it's the 1% against the rest of us. You know, that's what it is. There, all the other little teams about, like, who's Q, what's your opinion on UFOs, what's your opinion on 9/11, what's it like? None of that matters. Like,
most people are scared. Also, everyone's scared to lose their job. I mean, like, I'll never get hired again in LA, but LA's over. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, most people are scared. They're just scared. Nobody's even telling you what they think most of the time. They're just, like, nodding, like, okay, you know. But I mean, I get the whispers, like, oh, I remember you told me about this. But I think so many people are so scared to be wrong, scared to be right, scared to have an opinion. Everyone just wants to be told what to think,
or left alone.
Yeah, or left alone, even worse. You know, because
just leave me alone. Just let me sit here.
I'll just wear my mask, and you know, I draw the line when I see kids with masks on. But you know what? They're not my kids, and you know, I can give my opinion. But I think most people just don't realize how much they're being lied to, or they just don't want to know. They don't want to know.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I found the quote and I just realized how bad I fucked that up.
Oh, let's hear it.
It's not red versus not red versus blue. It's 1% versus you. I didn't even have the right color. That's how bad I was.
But it makes sense, and I think Charlie might appreciate this. And I think that a big component of all this is that we have relegated all of our responsibility to these people who are unaccountable.
Right.
You know. When we're talking about the state and we're talking about these politicians, and I know, like, this is apparently it's a controversial issue, but y'all were talking about Denny Hastert and all these different politicians who were implicated in these serious sexual crimes where you're like, well, this couldn't have just happened, like, for those, you know, couple of years. Like, this must have been happening for a while. And then at the same time, you know, you've got the conspiracy of silence stuff and everything that happened then. You've got Pizzagate and whatever that would have been.
Penn State.
And Penn State, all this stuff. You've got all this stuff. It's institutionalized, the Catholic Church, you name it. And it's like our institutions are the problem. And this is why it's all about, you know, and I know it's a dirty word, but you want
Demon
to...
sperm.
What's that?
Demon sperm. Yeah.
I can't
Demon
help
sperm.
it. It's too funny.
Yeah. No, but you do want to decentralize. You do want to disassociate yourself from every institution, and if that means secession, I mean, I can't remember who said it, but the individual is the smallest minority, and I believe that to be 100% true. And I think that when people use truther as a weapon, then they are admitting how much they want that system to dominate them, their family, and everything else. Like, it's all about decentralization. It's all about saying, you have no power over me. And when you look at it, it's like, oh, well, the roads, who's going to build them? It's like, they can't even protect the roads now. You know, like, look at Portland, look at Seattle. They can't even protect the roads. You're going to tell me, like, you can't have roads. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, get the fuck out of here. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of even having to have when the road discussion comes up, it's almost just like, What
about Space Force?
Space Force.
Hey, I want to thank
nice.
I want to thank Ricky for setting this up with the invites and everything. And I want to thank Mike for setting this up on the engineering side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an important conversation. We try and do this, every other week to get people together to talk about the things that are important to them and to get people geographically from different spots all over the country, all over the world, really. Kev Baker was supposed to join us. He's going to make it next time around out of Glasgow, Scotland. So, to get these people that are seeing things differently there, it's really valuable. I encourage anybody that's watching this to share it on social media. We will not get the benefit of the algorithm. They will suppress these sorts of topics and things like that. So you can't count on YouTube to manually suggest it to you. So take this and put it on your social media and get it out there and have people start talking about it, because this is the first step. We're trying to figure this all out, and none of us pretend that we have the answers, but to have the conversations, to get people thinking and get it permission and comfort to talk about these important and political, third rail types of topics in this sort of environment. It's really beneficial. I think it gives a lot of people hope. And I've been getting a lot of feedback from people saying, I love the Union of the Unwanted. What you guys are doing for that is really cool. We didn't set out to make it super cool like that. It just kind of happened. So
there's more of us than we think.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ricky.
And George Carlin, he said there's a club, you're not in it. This is a club that everybody's in. Everybody's welcome to this club. Okay.
I can think of some people we don't
most
want.
People. I want to say yeah. And most people are welcome.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, thanks everybody.
Yeah,
hey,
thanks
have a great night.
Awesome. Drusilla, thank you, Dean.
Thank you. And thanks for dealing with all my crappy jokes.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. I've never been happier to be unwanted. It's a really good feeling. So this is Dean Reiner from Portland, Oregon, with Up is Down podcast. I've only had it for about a little over a year, and I'm just getting out from teaching myself how to do it. But I'm honored to be a part of this little group and this discussion. I hope we can remain friends and continue this. This is really, really cool. So thank you.
It's kind of the point.
Well, check out Truthzilla podcast. It's new too. They're doing cool shit there, so it's
awesome.
Listen.
Yeah, we just wanted to say too, thank you for having us on. We're the new kids on the block, but we got the fire, man. We are ready to bring it. We've been in this game for a while, and we're just finally straw that broke the camel's back. So thank you so much for having us, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. As soon as I can,
guys.
I'll put links in the description. I'll send out video links early tomorrow morning along with the MP3s. So
and spread this shit.
Yeah.
Put it on your RSS feed. Put it on your YouTube channel. This stuff's all open source. We're trying to spread the demon sperm as far as we can. So
hell yeah, love it. Hey, we're at Connect, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Hey, have a great night.
Take it easy, guys.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night. Signing out.
Got hairy legs.